Welcome to the Vibrant Living Network. Have you ever wondered what is possible beyond possible? What is the thing you've been wondering and inquiring about? Are you just feeling stuck and don't know why? Are you thinking or are you seeing? Seeing allows us to expand and have this other experience. We want to invite you for that wake-up call. We want to invite your spirit, your soul, so to be more alive, more connected. Glenn Brooks has been a life coach for over 33 years, author of Divorced to Patterns, Not Each Other, an explorer of what is possible. He has worked with people all around the world. Join us for a wake-up conversation, a dialogue with you. We will have some of the most interesting contributors. We will be talking to some of the most interesting people and have some of the most resourceful teachers, wisdom-filled people from around the world join us. Share your voice, ask the questions, become free of the known into a new world of possibility. We are going to talk about all the things you wonder about: how to live, how to heal, how to connect, how to love, how to be seen. Your life is precious. Enjoy it.
Thank you. It's wonderful being with you. I'm Glenn Brooks. Honored to be with Rita, gentlemen, who's the co-host on our new format called the Brain Plasticity Lifestyle. Rita, I'm so happy you're here today.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy you're here. You wouldn't believe how much you come to mind and awareness when I'm designing things. And I want to acknowledge Lisa LaRose, who's been on this cruise ship for 18 years, whatever that means, linear time. Linear time. She's been close. She hiked the mountain with me. She took a picture of me hula hooping with 3 hoops. A feat I haven't done again. Thank you, Lisa. Somewhere that's been documented, I guess. I appreciate that. One day at the park, Lisa caught me in the middle of 3 hula hoops. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. And I was trying to master one.
We got to practice that again. I wanted to, well, first of all, I'm really happy you're here, Rita and Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Through the years, I've seen one thing be very powerful, and it's a principle of the dojo, the authentic dojo. And the idea of an authentic dojo is you kind of show up with received in reverence and seeing this. It's really interesting. Since we produced these dialogues with Mia Schneider, someone I've known for, probably over 25 years, I didn't tell you this. I think you left on vacation, Rita. And I know that Lisa knows.
I just got back. Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna validate you're coming back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you said to me, based on your work, you were very interested in the eyes and
Beyond, yeah.
The eyes. And so what happened was probably like 6-7 weeks ago, I went through this period of time where I was kind of noticing the difference between my left eye and my right eye.
Yes.
And I noticed that I was unsettled about it. I was sort of unsettling, not feeling that I could see this way that I wanted to see, and then I realized that most eye doctors, they dilute the eye, so the pupil, gets enlarged.
Yep.
And you had said to me you wanted someone. I realized, and I said this to Lisa, I had known about someone for many, many years who probably is the country's most innovative, truly authentically holistic eye doctor.
Yep.
Dr. Mark Grossman. And I had a vision over the last, let's say 4 weeks, to do a whole year on vibrant seeing.
Wow.
And so this is the idea of vibrant seeing is, and here's the thing, we mostly look, and the distinction between seeing and looking is a pretty huge distinction. In the same way that we mostly kind of script things. And so I started having these conversations with Dr. Mark Grossman. And what was so beautiful is I want to ask you that. I want to ask you, Rita, this, and I want to ask Lisa this. You know what it's like when you go to someone and the vision you have is their vision? Like I basically said to Mark, I I have this vision of doing something with you that's not been done before, and it's going to be a year-long, a group of people totally moving into this awareness practice, into what seeing is in their life. The ability to see love, the ability to make corrective, rejuvenative things to your eyes. It's stuff that so he told me that was his vision too. And they had talked about this through the years. So I guess my question is, into the new year, and based on what's your experience, what's that like when that happens? When you meet someone else and you have a concurrence of vision?
Oh, well, it's honestly, I don't know if I'm allowed to use this word. It's kind of orgasmic. I don't know.
Okay.
That's how it feels.
Lisa will look it up during the break. I don't know if you are, but if you're not, I think it was cool that you did.
I love your support. I really do. Oh, Glenn, this is delicious. It's incredible fireworks. You feel so deeply connected to that person, and you feel, I think the biggest thing is you're so inspired, and you feel like, wow, someone else has your vision, and you can actually make it happen, and you could put it into the world, and you could express yourself fully, and you could actually make a difference with people, and you don't have to do it alone. I mean, it's wonderful. It's wonderful when that happens. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, no, by the way, I feel the same thing you just said. I feel like somehow it's a validation from the universe, an orgasmic validation. It's kind of like, wow, how could someone else be on that same wavelength and feel it so deeply? And the thing is, when I said to Mark, I said it's going to be Vibrant Seeing, and I how much do you like the name? And he says, totally. So here I am. And this is sort of interesting, being a dark horse. And I'm doing an article on being a relational dark horse. So how to take the attributes of a dark horse and see how you bring that to a group. How do you bring, relational fulfillment? Because sometimes being a dark horse, you could get a little pigeon-eyed. So
of course, I understand that.
All right, Lisa's looked up to see if we could say orgasmic, and then let's get her response. Have you had?
I believe yes. I believe it's allowed to say that word. I don't think it's in the naughty words. Rita and Glenn.
Yeah.
When you ask that question, it's interesting because I just recently met somebody and didn't even know this person was in my universe, and it was because I was picking up a package from this, and this gentleman agreed to meet me. And, texted on the phone, whatever. And he came around the corner with my package at the mailing center. And there was something about him in his eyes. And it's so interesting that you say that about seeing, because it almost took my breath away. It wasn't that he was, like Rock Hudson handsome or, built or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was something about his genuineness, I could just sort of feel his soul to the core. Like, who is this person? I want to know who you are, and I want to know your story. And it was funny because he had the same thing. And I said, you're not from here, are you? And he said, no, he had moved here from California. And we got into a dialogue, and I said, what brought you to Pittsburgh? And he shared his, it was his girlfriend. And I said, I don't think like I'm a stalker or anything, but I would really like to get to know you and, find out more about you, just because even in the 15-minute exchange, I could just feel who he was. And I think that that's what you're asking people to do in joining in a community is like, take the moment, look into somebody's eyes, see who they are, and really, truly know them. And I think, Rita, you have a wonderful gift of being able to do that, and I know you do as well, Glenn, which is, why we want to bring this forth into the new year.
Yeah, so what was interesting is the two things we're bringing forward is one is this club with Dr. Mark Grossman. And so I said to Mark yesterday, I asked him this question, Lisa and Rita, and the question was, how many people come to see you how many people come to you around their eyes because they sense they're missing something? How many people have like almost like a crisis of seeing, a crisis of vision? And he says, well, what's interesting is that most people come because they have a problem with their eyes. They perceive a problem. And then what unfolds is this other level where they start to inquire about seeing. So it's sort of this, this unfoldment because, we're so trained in some sense to always pay attention to problems and diagnose the problems. And I remember working with Deepak Chopra during the AIDS epidemic, which I guess was still in the epidemic, but early on, and he would say to me that he didn't know what caused AIDS, but 99% of it was the diagnostic. So the diagnostic of something is impacts how we experience it. Like if you go into a room full of people and you say a certain name, the person has, multiple sclerosis. This woman wrote this wonderful book called Who Says So? And the whole point of her book was to kind of like not let the name and the whole languaging impact, her life. And she was pretty amazing. Actually, during that conversation, she was actually going to lift weights, and she really had changed her brain. Rita, why don't you share a little bit about your vision with our new format? Because I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Norm Shealy in our next segment. Why don't you share what your vision is for the brain plasticity lifestyle, our format, and then I want to talk a little bit why a year long. I want to get into that because Lisa brought it up so beautifully. But share with your vision and mission around the brain plasticity lifestyle and what it means to you, and Marissa, the co-host.
Well, I was just thinking, one way to describe what I think I and Marissa do is helping special needs adults or children, whatever age they are, to really feel comfortable in their own skin. And that is definitely something that I see very rarely because these individuals are not very comfortable in their environment. They're not comfortable in their bodies. They are misunderstood and misjudged, and we just basically are misfits in a way. And I think for me what's really, really important is the idea of brain plasticity, why it's so valuable, why it's so powerful, is that we really truly provide hope and also hands-on practical tools to help these individuals and help the family to actually make them fit, but not make them fit into the mold that someone else is expecting them to, is designed for them because they need to appease their own comfort, like their parents, or the school teachers, but actually show families, show caregivers, show school teachers that these beautiful beings have a different way to perceive the world, and they're sensitive, and they're kind, and they're compassionate, and they have their own interests, and they have own ideas about life, and we can actually help them feel happy and feel comfortable if we just become curious about them, if we allow ourselves to feel relaxed and to feel comfortable around them and engage them in a fun way. And of course, that looks different for every family and every individual because depending on the environment, depending on the goals, depending on the level of, how much they're involved and how much they're affected. But there's a lot of hope because we can change the brain, and we do have the tools to change it. And I think it starts with compassion and understanding someone who's different than you. And everything I do and everything my colleague does, we seek to understand, we seek to love, we seek to support the individual in their journey while also help them understand that there's a specific world we live in and there are certain rules and there are certain guidelines and we can't just fully ignore them, and that there are other people in this world that they need to relate to, and it's a give or take. But it always starts in the beginning with being curious and compassionate. And then we find out how to really help them plug in and enjoy their life and enjoy their family and enjoy relationships and enjoy relating, which to me is a really big piece of the puzzle, relating relationships. It's a very big, profound piece. So I'm inspired. I'm excited. That's my vision. And just the word relating just feels really good to say because I know, Glenn, you are really into relating and relationships. And, the biggest missing piece, the biggest missing link is relationships with self and relationship with others. And I don't know which one comes first, but it's that relationship that's so important. And I think it's really important for me to acknowledge that relating with individuals with special needs, even if they don't have language, even if they don't talk, it's very possible, it's very real, it's very accessible. And they really can relate very deeply. And I think that is very important to say that out loud, because many people don't believe that that's possible.
Right. And we had this conversation before that they're sort of like damaged goods, or they're like barely functioning, or there's different. If people don't say it, it's kind of an assumption. It's kind of like there was two significant teachers in my life, and they both went to this house where people were getting rehabilitation services, and they had two totally different experiences. So one of the teachers, he went, and pretty much the people were in a room. They were in a room with chairs, and he said they could barely function, and they threw sick. They were pretty much very disruptive and very non-coherent. And this other teacher, who always used to say that we need to see this diamond in people. We need to see what's there. That's like the fundamental way that we see, and when we see that way, it changes everything. So of course he went in there, and people started to change their postures. They started to straighten out their shirts. It was a very different experience. And what Lisa was saying, I think, is interesting, because I think so often in culture we get very scripted about. I guess we're scripted about how we interact, who's a person we can interact with. It's almost like we become socially handcuffed. It's kind of rare. The interaction that Lisa had is rare in the sense that we've come up with a whole language of, human beings as aliens or something. It's kind of like this social, this conformist kind of counterfeit grid. We're going to continue with Vibrant Living. And Rita and Lisa and you in a moment. You just enjoy it. Happy New Year.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from New Thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is recording artist and composer Yuval Ran, inviting you to a voyage through the chakras, a new double album of guided meditations to transform your life, a sublime musical medicine for nourishing inner peace and reaching to your higher virtues. Get it now at metamindfulnessmusic.com, METTA mindfulnessmusic.com.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
I want to welcome you guys to the Vibrant Living Network. Our freestanding network, the Vibrant Living Network, will be launching towards the end of January. We'll have 10 hours of programming. We'll be commercial free. It's going to be a very unique thing. If you're moved to be a leader and be a public speaker, I invite you to be in touch. If you've always wanted a platform to explore and make the kind of connections that bring your message and your awareness to another level, you can be in touch with me about the network, the Vibrant Living Network, at 413-345-3747, 413-345-3747. And also to learn about our upcoming Vibrant Living Summit speaking events. So what I love about both, Rita, what you brought up and what Lisa brought up, I really appreciate the ability to explore something outside of it. You know, so the first time I heard someone say to me, it's good to not be in your business. What do they say? Don't be in your business, kind of like work on your business. Be aware of your business. Like, a lot of times what happens is when we get in culture, one of my favorite books, and I know the author is called Beyond Culture. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he gets really into this book about like how there's distortions and habits in a culture, but when we go beyond culture, it's sort of it allows us this beginning, this other whole place. And one of the stories in that book, which I love, is the scientists are observing these indigenous people make these beautiful baskets, just gorgeous. And in the Western mind, we're very linear. We want to know things from a linear place. And so they kept asking the basket weavers how they did the baskets. And basically they would never answer. But when they began to answer, they lost their ability to make the baskets. And somehow with people, it's like they have these innate, sometimes practices and habits and ways of accessing things that's beyond what they could say. And of course, I've seen this in many fields. As an example, there's tennis pros, when they explain what they do, they don't do anything like they say that what they do. So it's sort of, I guess you could say, these year-long programs we're going to have this year. One with Dr. Norm Shealy on Growing Young. By the way, Norm's 85. He takes no medication. He's going to be with us any moment, by the way. He's my mentor. He's impacted me so deeply, and I'm just so honored to have him on. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about growing young as a way of life. With Dr. Mark Grossman, the same thing for a whole year, because it takes a while to decode what I would call hidden thought viruses, not just in our mind, but in our body. Right? Kind of how we don't breathe and flow with things often. So I don't know. I liked your story about the post office. Lisa, I do find it interesting. It's sort of like it's just us down here. And I have a chapter in my book, by the way. It's called "Are You Bestranging or Are You Beloving?" And I realize a lot of this bestrangement, is this idea that there's someone other than us that's this suspicious person. And it's sort of like my neighbors, they had a little girl, and she ate this it turned out not to be a poisonous mushroom. But for the next, 15 years, she was so scared to even walk in a field with mushrooms. So the service was to want to, help her with the mushrooms, but they freaked her out, I think, maybe forever. So I think part of what happens in life is how do you become aware? How do you grow awareness without, I guess you could say, encouraging this level of terror or freezing people up in their system, their sympathetic system, where they're living in an ongoing emergency state. And that's why I love these year-long courses, because we get to see each other. We're going to be sitting in the same room. We're going to do some of these programs on Zoom. We're going to get together in person. What do you think, Rita, a whole year on Vibrant Seeing? What would be your first, from your perspective, being someone who's interested in seeing, what would inspire you about doing a year-long course called Vibrant Seeing? It's an open question here.
What it comes to me, since the work that I do, I would say watch a little clip of an autistic child doing specific ritualistic behaviors that appear to be unique and awkward and kind of unconventional and is completely not accepted by society. And I want them to watch for 30 seconds, and I want each person to list what are they seeing. And just rattle it off. No thinking involved. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a full, are you seeing damaged, I'm just kind of spitting it out. But, everyone would say something different, but I'm curious, like their eyes, what are they seeing? Because I know what I'm seeing, but 99% of the time when I show that clip, the judgments and the incredible, horrific things that come out of people's mouths I cannot even begin to tell you. I mean, really, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So that seeing, you know, is what the eye brings to the to your mind and your belief system, and what you see is just incredible. It's just incredible. So I'd love to change what I see. Like, for example, I have a very hard time with people who are overweight. I have a very heavy judgment on people who are overweight. And I wish I didn't. That's what my mind says. But clearly what I'm seeing... No, but seriously, I'm being very honest, obviously. But what I'm seeing
I know.
is clearly different than what someone else sees. And this might be, you know, a common belief system or not common belief system. I don't know. But what I see, I don't like. And that feels uncomfortable. And I would like for someone to help me shift my seeing with my eyes when I look at someone who has weight on them and looks unhealthy to me.
Oh my God! I have a story I want you to look up. Up. All right. Oh, okay, wonderful. I'm gonna get back to the story because I want to get right to Norm. But God, well, I want to introduce you guys to my mentor, someone who's really shifted my perception, my way of seeing things. He's been a mentor. He's been there for me. I've known Norm 27 years. I've had him on. I've had numerous discussions over the last 9 years. He's done so many things that have inspired me. He's reversed his telomeres. He's the length of his cell. He's grown younger. His recent book, by the way, is called Conversations with God: A Physician's Encounter with Heaven. Norm, to me, has grown in authentic wisdom. One day I was on the bicycle trail, and as I often do, I would call Norm up when I was wondering about something. And I thought to myself, I don't think people are supposed to get to know each other. I think we're supposed to get to recognize each other. And then in recognition, we bring out the wonder of the other person. And Norm told me he agreed. He told me the story of how he met his wife, which is a story of recognition and wonderment. So Norm has touched me on so many levels, and I realized when I thought about the kind of membership club I wanted the next year, everybody said to me they wanted to grow young of their mind, their body, their spiritual maturity, their wonderment, and also to rid themselves of the hidden thought viruses they couldn't see that they had. Norm tells a story, and there's many, many stories he's touched my soul with, of a German woman who had very advanced cancer. She was going to die very soon. And Norm shared an exercise with her because I had asked Norm, what have you seen over the last 45 years about these unusual healings? What have you noticed when the soul inhabits the body in a way where the body seems to come to life in a way that no one considered possible? Most physicians said they're gone. She did, I think it was 1 or 2 forgiveness exercises so deeply, her body changed and she came back to life. This year with Dr. Norm Shealy on Growing Young is all about you participating and engaging in ways you didn't even consider, and it'll be experiential, engaging. And I want to welcome with great love to Lisa and you, Rita. Rita's our co-host, Norm. We got Lisa here with great love. I want to introduce you to Dr. Norm Shealy, who's I'm going to be doing this course with, and here he is today. Norm, welcome.
Great, good to be with you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Norm.
Happy New Year, yes.
Thank you.
What's moving you in the world where I know you developed a bed as an example that reverses the telomeres, it reduces stress. You're someone, what you live and inquire into, I just love. You inquire into not just getting rid of diseases. You really inquire, as human beings, how could we wake up? How could we not just treat something at the level of the symptom, but really how could we grow young and wise and live in wonder and have a new life that we haven't had before? What's moving you into this new year? What would you want to share with people about growing young as an example?
The single most important thing is to detach from 100% of all of your fears. Now, maybe you think you don't have any fears. If that is true, then you have no anxiety, no depression, no anger, no guilt. If you have any anger, guilt, depression, or anxiety, then you have fear of something. And the question is, are you going to do anything about it? Can you get rid of it? Can you divorce it with joy? Or are you ready to accept it and go for sainthood? That's what I call true detachment.
Now, you just shared something with me that really has impacted me in a big way. I want to ask you this. You were saying, Norm, that you read a book, I don't know how many years ago, on, was it aggravation or annoyance? I think it was annoyance, being annoyed.
Oh, irritation.
Irritation, thank you. Share about that. That was profound for me.
Yeah, Irritation, the Destructive Force by Torquem Saradarian.
How does irritation get in our way in terms of harmony and detachment? I like the way you describe detachment. So irritation keeps us sort of riveted. It keeps us in resistance. By the way, I want to mention to people that people travel the world to see Dr. Norm for pain and depression, and he's helped people way past what anybody ever thought was possible for them. Share with people about dealing with irritation as a doorway to growing young.
Well, basically, according to Torquem, and he was what I call one of the great gurus of the last century. He wrote a number of books. This was actually a little 50-page booklet, which I've read many times. And he says irritation is not always even something you're conscious of. He says it's other people's nonsense, if you will, other people's anger, guilt, anxiety, etc., can splash into your energy field and damage your etheric nervous system. Now, most people know about a physical body and a physical nervous system, but they may not be aware of the etheric and the astral and the mental and the other layers of your being. In other words, if you've ever seen a painting of Christ or the saints, they usually have around them a light. It's often gold, outlined or white, outlined in gold on the outside, but that is the reflection of the electromagnetic energy field that you put off because you are a physical living being. And about 20% of people, like me, see your energy field. And I can tell when someone walks in the room if they're crazy, that is psychotic.
Yes.
It looks like a bad storm coming at you. I once had a patient sent to me by a cardiologist from Chicago because she thought she had a second body and she wanted to know how to get rid of her second body. And when she walked in the door, I said, "Oh, wait a minute, I got to make a phone call." I sent her outside with her husband, and I called a psychiatrist. And I said, "Denny, I've got a crazy woman in my office. I don't know how to deal with crazy people. Can you possibly see her today?" So what I see around people is a reflection of their mental, emotional state. So if you are depressed, it's sort of grayish, blackish, narrow. If you're anger, it explodes bigger. You know, it's just, well, it is a reflection of what's happening in the physical electrical body. And I can deal with it until it becomes to be like a horrible storm with red and lightning bolts and stuff like that. Then I don't know what to do. But that kind of person, I remember the first psychotic I ever saw was when I was on a rotation through psychiatry in medical school.
Yeah.
I was sent over to the VA to interview this person. He wouldn't say a word. He was that psychotic. Not one. I couldn't get a word out of him. And after an hour of torture to me, I left. And I never wanted to go back. And, you know, basically, your emotions do reflect in the electromagnetic energy you put off. Now, sometimes people feel it more than they see it, or they sense it and know something's wrong without even knowing why or what. But the point is, everything affects everything. And so if a person has anger especially, you can't help but be aware of it. And according to Torquem, this first layer around you, the first, few inches, if you will, of energy around you, what are called the etheric nervous system. And theoretically, that's how the soul gets into the physical body, by putting information through the etheric body into the physical body. At any rate, all of these things affect us. And you don't want to be with or around people who are angry, guilty, anxious, or depressed, because they can affect you. It's sort of like contagious. And unless you can detach. Now, one of the things I learned from Torkham, when he listed something like 28 or 9 causes of irritation. Then he listed 30 anecdotes. And the anecdotes to protect you from irritation started off with freesias. Now, freesias to me are a cute little wimpy flower, and they have a wimpy smell. It's not something I care about at all. But the second one on his list is roses. Well, there's rose oil. And so ever since I read that back in 1974, I put a couple of drops of rose oil on me. I rub it on my solar plexus primarily, because I don't want anybody else's crud getting into my body. And I've done that now since 1974. I don't like to go out of the house without my rose oil. And I think my intention and belief may be as important as the rose oil. You know, Bill Tiller, the great physicist, retired chairman of the department from Stanford University, has been working for 30 years or more on intention. And Bill can, in meditation with 3 other people, they do usually 4 people go into meditation, and they imprint an intention on an electric motor to do whatever. They start off with things like fruit flies and enzymes in fruit flies, of all things.
Right.
And they could influence the physical body of fruit flies. Well, then they graduated to people. One of my doctoral students did her doctoral dissertation having Bill build a little motor that was just to enhance healing. And for a whole year, 150 names of patients from a physician's office were just scrolled 24 hours a day through the computer sitting in front of this motor. Another 150 patients were not in the room or not being scrolled. And at the end of the year, there was a highly statistical decrease in the symptoms of the people who were being influenced by this machine. Now, interestingly, just this year, since May, Bill has been using intention to decrease crime in Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri is a little city of 160,000. But according to the Internet, we are actually the most dangerous city in the country per capita. Now, St. Louis and Little Rock are greater overall because they're much, much bigger. Our crime rate every month since May has gone down quite strikingly in the city of Springfield. So that's how thought and intention can affect us.
You know, you shared something with me, and by the way, I've had many discussions with Dr. Norm on exorcisms and the kind of hidden medicine, invisible medicine, that allows us to grow young. We're gonna see if we can explore this. We're gonna ask Dr. Norm about growing young, and ask Lisa and Rita what their vision of growing young is this year, and talk more about growing young. Your life's precious. Enjoy it. Stay with us for more Vibrant Living. I'm Glenn Brooks.
Feed your soul with Waves of Consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hi, this is New Age Grammy winner Paul Avgerinos. Thanks for listening to OMTimes Radio, and please support my peaceful healing music with a purchase at iTunes, Amazon, or wherever you shop for fine music. Just put my name into the search engine, Paul Avgerinos. A, V like Victor, G like George, E-R-I-N-O-S. You can also visit me at roundskymusic.com. Thanks for listening, and I'm wishing you the brightest of blessings.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Vibrant Living. I'm Glenn Brooks, and along with Lisa LaRose and Rita, who's the co-host of the Brain Plasticity Lifestyle, we got Dr. Norm Shealy, my beloved mentor. Norm keeps growing young, and he's inviting us to join us for the next year. For next year, we're going to do a growing young class, a growing young community. I read something, Norm, a few years ago, a book by Dr. Ellen Lang. She talked about two groups of people, 72 plus. They both went to a monastery for 12 days. And I want Lisa and Rita, I want you guys to come up with your question. I want you guys to both ask your question for Norm about growing young for the next year. So she took these 12 people. One group was supposed to live in the monastery as if it was the year of 1999. The other group was supposed to live and operate as if it was 1944. The way they dressed, the music they listened to, the dances they danced. And they checked the physiology and all the markers for aging. And in fact, the people that lived as if it was 1944 had significant reductions. Norm, I want you to share something about growing young as a way of life. To me, you keep growing young, and I'm inspired. As Jack LaLanne said to me one time when we were working together, he said, Glenn, he goes, dying would be bad for my reputation. It turned out he was right. I'd rather not die. I like this idea, by the way, of growing young.
Well, basically, I have all my life had good health habits. It never occurred to me not to have good health habits. My mother was a natural farmer or gardener, if you will, red prevention and organic gardening, and I took over the family garden for vegetables and fruits when I was 12 years old. So I've always been into, and I took up specific physical exercise at that same age, and I've never not done those things. In fact, in 1962, when McDonald's opened in Cleveland, Ohio, I went there one day, this new restaurant, and I took one bite out of the hamburger, and I spit it out and threw it in the trash can, and I've never been back. My taste bud said this is, well, I can't even say on the radio what I thought it was. And if all fast food restaurants depended upon people like me, they'd have been bankrupt years ago.
Yeah, it wouldn't say billions and billions. It would say no one's coming here, and don't you?
That's right. And again, things like Campbell's soup. Campbell's soup is not good. It's crud. It's loaded with monosodium glutamate. Glutamate is a poison to your brain, of all things. So at the top of my list is you've got to take care of yourself first, because the food industry is as evil as the tobacco industry and the pharmaco mafia combined. I mean, they are all out only to make money and care nothing about reality and honesty. Now, that having been said, there are 5 essential habits. And if you do not have these habits, you cannot be healthy. Number 1 is normal body weight. That is a body mass index of 18 to 24. 70% of people do not have that. 70% of Americans have a body mass index above 24, and 35% have one of 30 or above, and 30 or above is considered plain old sloppy fat obese. And I'm not being nice, and I don't care about political correctness, in case you haven't noticed. In fact, I consider political correctness a sickness. And so if you're overweight, well, you're already unhealthy, and nobody can help you but yourself. Number 2 is no smoking. 22% of American adults still smoke. 1 pack of cigarettes a day shortens your life by 7 years. Now, interestingly, having a body mass index of 30 or above shortens your life the same as smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
That's, you know. And then number 3, you must eat a minimum 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The average American eats 2.2. And by the way, ketchup and French fries are not a vegetable. Number 4, physical exercise, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now, interestingly, sitting all day is as harmful to your health as smoking 1 or 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And finally, sleeping a minimum of 7 up to 8 hours every night of your life. People who sleep 6 hours or less function at the level of someone who is, quote, slightly drunk. Interestingly, there are 2 major national studies that show 97.3% of people, only 97.3% of people are missing 1 to 5 of those habits. So slightly less than 3% of Americans have the basic essentials for optimal health. And every one of those habits which you are not having shortens your life. So the average American dies at age 78. That's average. If we all adopted the 5 essential habits within 25 years, life expectancy would go up to 100 because our DNA is programmed to live 100 years. In other words, the DNA, the stuff that owns, if you will, controls, runs every cell in your body, has something at the tip called a telomere. And when the cell is worn out, which is in a maximum of 7 years, by the way, with some cells like skin within days or weeks replacing themselves, but when telomeres are worn out, they reproduce the cell. But every year of your life, if you have good health habits, they shrink 1%. So except for those rare people who have a genetic predisposition, if you will, our life expectancy at birth, if we're born healthy, and we can talk about that too, if we're born healthy, our life expectancy should be 100 years if we have good health habits. But we don't. So average is 78 years of life. Now, recognizing all of that and recognizing that the telomeres are shortened by poor health habits, in 1995, I visited the Ukraine where I was invited to study what they call microwave resonance therapy. They had discovered that human DNA resonates, or essentially vibrates, at 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. And that if you apply that in frequency at an intensity of a billionth of a watt to acupuncture points, it would activate the acupuncture points better than anything else. So when I came home from the Ukraine, I developed a way of producing those frequencies using a Tesla coil. Nikola Tesla was, in my opinion, the most brilliant person perhaps in history. And he would have revolutionized the world if it had not been for Rockefeller and Edison, who did everything in their power to destroy him because they didn't want free energy. At any rate, a Tesla coil puts out these frequencies, that is 52 to 78 billion cycles a second at a billionth of a watt per centimeter square. Now, interestingly, I learned very quickly that an old device developed by a naturopath, C.W. Kent, back in 1919, puts out those frequencies. And the old violet rays were a Tesla coil running through a glass electrode, and they put out 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. So I had engineers and a physicist help me develop those particular frequencies. And my first invention was a copper pyramid, about 4 feet, let's say 4.5 feet on the base, 54 inches, and then a copper pyramid up, again about 5 feet tall totally. And if you apply a Tesla coil to that particular structure and sit in it for 30 to 60 minutes, I learned in my first year of working with this frequency that people who would spend 5 days a week sitting in that copper pyramid for just 30 minutes, their telomeres regrew 3.5%. Now, about that same time, I finished looking at 5 individual circuits that I had discovered. These are acupuncture circuits in the body that have very specific biochemical benefits. For instance, the first circuit was the ring of fire.
Norm, I just want to give people your website. There's a lot of people that are going to want to follow up. You'll have an opportunity to join us for a year about you becoming younger with Dr. Norm Shealy and myself. Please go to Dr. Norm Shealy, drshealy.com, drnormshealy.com, and read about our year-long course. Go ahead, Norm. Go ahead. And by the way, I want to thank Rita and Lisa for being here and have you back on because you have so much to share in a world where people are more interested in aging than de-aging. So go ahead.
Okay, so fire raises DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone. And I've been interested in that for, 30 years because it is the original and most important anti-stress hormone. For instance, any kind of stress, physical, emotional, psychological, whatever, puts out cortisone, for instance, and does a whole bunch of things, adrenaline, etc. However, in order to bring it back down, that is, these abnormal stress chemicals, the adrenal glands put out DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone. Now, you peak in your growth in an average person at making DHEA at about age 25. But because of cumulative stress, by age 40, most people have already lost 20% or more of their DHEA. And by age 80, if you're still alive, the average person, even those healthy, have lost 80 or 90% of their DHEA. And so if you stimulate with these frequencies that I was just talking about, 52 to 78 billion cycles a second, or a billionth of a watt, it will regenerate your ability to make DHEA, or partially, that is, it raises it an average of 60%. Now, since most people are already 80 or 90% low, it takes a lot to get it back up. On the other hand, so that was my first such circuit. Then I discovered the ring of air, and the ring of air is related to a chemical called neurotensin, which is a neuroleptic, which is the hormone that allows you to detach, in my opinion. And it also raises oxytocin, which is missing in 100% of people with any known disease, or at least low. Then I discovered the ring of water, which normalizes aldosterone, a chemical that balances water metabolism and potassium metabolism. Then the ring of earth, which raises calcitonin, which keeps your bones from falling apart. And finally, the ring of crystal, which, when stimulated daily, reduces free radicals 80%. And it's free radicals which ultimately rust us or wrinkle us and kill us. And I don't know anything else in the world that reduces free radicals 80%, by the way. Now, when I finished the work on these, I had already demonstrated that sitting in the copper pyramid...
I just want to say you could check Dr. Norm Shealy's website out and join us for a whole year of growing young, wise, and aware as a community of people. Thank you and love to you, Dr. Norm Shealy. DrNormShealy.com. DrNormShealy.com. Lisa, thank you so much. I treasure you. Lisa, I'm so inspired about our brain plasticity lifestyle. And I want to tell you about Dr. Drew Joy. He's the guy I want to tell you with the story. Norm, thank you. I love you very much. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.